Women's fighting has come a long way in a relatively short time. From having a single big-name fighting talented amateurs to a real depth of talent. It's been a rapid rise for professional female combat. At the turn of the millennium, Laila Ali was the first big female fighter, based primarily on her being the daughter of the most famous boxer in history. But as good as she was, she still struggled to find opponents on her level. A few years after Ali, Cecilia Brækhus made a public ripple by becoming an undisputed welterweight champion. Unfortunately, she also had to spend much of her career facing lesser-known foes of indeterminate quality. Gina Carano was the reluctant face of women's MMA for a few years, being marketed on her looks while having to fight catchweight bouts to find opponents. She was part of the first female headline MMA fight when she faced Cris Cyborg for the inaugural Strikeforce Women's Featherweight title. It was Carano's first loss and last fight. While Carano retired, Cyborg went on to spend years beating undersized opponents in Strikeforce and then Invicta. The next big name in women's fighting was Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey!
And Rowdy Ronda did more than anyone to grow exposure for her sport. In hindsight, Rousey's now legendary undefeated run through the UFC bantamweight division is as much a product of a shallow competitive pool as it was any innate invincibility. It's telling that the main possible opponent discussed for Rousey was Cris Cyborg, the only other big name in women's MMA. This was despite the two being divisions apart. But when Rousey was dethroned by the first really technical striker she had faced in Holly Holm, the world of women's fighting got bust wide open. The title changed hands 3 times in 3 fights as the depth of the women's bantamweight division finally caught up to the champion. When Amanda Nunes defeated Cris Cyborg for the featherweight title, in under a minute no less, it ended the idea that the women's competition lacked depth. Half a year after Rousey lost her title, women's boxing made its debut in the Olympics, and interest in the sport doubled overnight. 4 years later, a second round of female boxing champions solidified the surge. When dual gold medalist Claressa Shields and gold medalist Katie Taylor went professional, there were suddenly several names in women's boxing that were grabbing headlines at the same time. Not that it was easy.
I feel like I have a harder job to do than the men as far as in boxing goes. They have a platform already. They know that you can go pro and not have an amateur background and where to go, who to fight, and who to talk to get you up there. And which most guys will say, oh, Al Heyman, Oscar De La Hoya, Top Rank, Rock Nation, you go and sign with those promoters, they'll build you up, right? But for women, I'm building the platform, and then not only with building the platform, I have to fight too, and I have to look good.
Through hard work and results, Shields has become a legitimate boxing star. She's now the fastest 3-division champion in history and is the focus of both a documentary and soon a feature film based on her life. For her part, Katie Taylor is working toward a showdown with Cecilia Brækhus. If the fight comes off, it will be the first time Brækhus will be sharing the ring with a name as big as her. And in the next few weeks, we have the prospect of 2 incredible women's title fights, both of which feature big names and tantalizing clashes of skill and style. On the 28th of February is the atomweight Muay Thai rematch between champion Stamp Fairtex and American challenger Jena Todd. Stamp is a relentless kickboxing and Muay Thai champion with a taste for violence. Jena Todd is as tough as they come and has a head kick that can make opponents rethink their life choices. The first time they fought, we were treated to 5 rounds of non-stop action. Both fighters ate their fair share of fists, but Stamp's aggression swayed the judges to give her the decision. How the rematch plays out, however, is anyone's guess. A week later, in the co-main event of UFC 247, it's the strawweight title fight between Zhang Wei Li and Joanna Jędrzejczyk in one of the most exciting fights on the UFC calendar in ages. Young Joyjack, the former champ, made it to the top of the division with some of the most clinical, technical striking either gender had displayed in a cage. She lost her title to Rose Namajunas, who was skillful enough to execute a perfect game plan. It's this kind of complex strategic layer that has arisen in women's combat as more focus and resources are given to the sport. Zhang, the current champ, is a human wrecking ball on a 20-fight win streak. She destroyed Jessica Andrade to win the belt in her last fight. It's an absolute peach of a fight between two fighters at the peak of their game. Gone are the days when a single star fighter had to take catchweight fights against semi-professional opponents. Women's combat now boasts multiple divisions full of high-level fighters with legitimate name power. The female competition has finally come of age, and we couldn't be happier. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you want more fight sports in your life, just hit the subscribe button.